Hello, what's up, guys? Welcome back. It's Will here for another set of fight predictions. We're here for UFC 283 from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil as Glover Teixeira and Jamahal Hill take centre stage here. Main event, the UFC's return to Brazil after I think it's about a 3-year period nearly, with a very, very big main event to crown a new UFC light heavyweight champion. And then we've got the quadrilogy fight between Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno for the UFC flyweight championship, the undisputed flyweight championship. 15 fights in this card. Really looking forward to talking about some scraps in there. I'll go into last week's card and tell you how I did with my picks. I'll bring that up in a little second there. Won a little bit of money off my bets, just 0.59 half unit for the week. So not too bad to start off the year. But yeah, really looking forward to kind of talking through this one. If you can throw a like on the video, it would be much, much appreciated. Please subscribe if you've not. Like I said, I'm trying to get back into the way of things and try and grow my channel back again. So I'm going to bring up screen share here. I'm going to get the Chrome tab and I'm going to go into predictions here and show you kind of how I did last week. I think I went 8-3 if I remember right. So there we are there. Got the main event wrong, but we'll start at the bottom. This fight obviously did not take place. Charles Johnson, he looked fantastic against Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick looked like he just kind of came back for a paycheck and really got out hustled from the get-go. Aguirre, I thought he showed a lot of heart in his fight there. I get Argate as a guy that I'm going to look to fade kind of going forward. I bet Hernandez, picked Hernandez, and the kind of worst case scenario kind of came through there with Nascimento getting the back, getting the submission. Basharat looked as good as ever. Rubetsky, I thought he threw everything to that first round, and then you seen he still got a lot going into later rounds, but against better caliber opposition, that'll just not stick around in UFC. Al Hassan did what he did. Umar looked unbelievable. Pennington, like I thought, close split decision. I thought she would get it. She did. I bet Soriano. Horrible bet to start the year. Kopylov looked amazing. Ige looked amazing. And Imavov, I don't think he looked bad, but I think Strickland looked really, really good coming in there on short notice. So 8-3 to start off the year. Not too bad. I will say that. So yeah. So let's get into this fight card. I'm going to bring this tab up here for myself so I know I'm looking at the right thing there. Teixeira versus Hill. And we're going to start off at the bottom of this card with a fight which I think will be very, very entertaining to start off with. Simon Oliveira against Daniel Marcos is the first fight here we've got in the bantamweight division. And Marcos is a guy, when I was watching some of his kind of earlier fights before these last few, I was like, oh, coming from the region that is, I think it's Peru, doesn't look too good. I thought that this guy's his record, you can tell that he's beat a kind of lot of lower caliber kind of opposition to really get that kind of record. But then against Brandon Lewis, I thought his hands looked sharp. He took a little bit of time away. I think I was close to 3 years that he took off from that last fight against Gaston Mansour. And he looked his hands looked a lot more crisper than he did in previous fights if you go back and watch some of them. And like I say, he's got some pop in his punches, and he's got some decent ability with that. It looks like if he can come into this fight with that performance that he showed against Lewis, I think he's got an opportunity here to cause problems for Simon Oliveira. Oliveira's a guy that I thought fought really tough out against Tony Gravely. Tony's a hard guy to come into the UFC against. Just because he's a wrestler, if you gas out, he can get opportunistic takedowns. That's kind of what happened. Before that, we kind of seen him in the UFC cage in the Apex against Josie Aldi when he won that split decision. And like I say, he's got some submission skills there. I think if he was to get the fight to the ground, I think he could cause some problems for Marcos. But on the feet, he's super aggressive. He, like I say, and he will come forward and throw some strikes to kind of get into that clinch position to get the fight to the ground. But like I say, if Marcos comes into this one with the striking that he showed in his previous fight, I think he could give Oliveira some problems. But Oliveira's a hard guy to really get out of there. He's only really lost via decision. over his losses, like literally all his losses are via decision. So he's going to be sticking around in that fight. So for me, I'm on the Oliveira side, Simon Oliveira. I think he's going to come out here and give Daniel Marcos his first professional loss. I just think that he's got a little bit more there. I'm actually going to pick him via submission. I think he's going to catch a finish in this one here. So, yeah, Oliveira for the win there. Featherweight division, Josiana Nunes against Zara Fernández-Santos. Don't really want to spend too much time on this. Josiana Nunes, I think she's like minus 450. She should absolutely run through Zara Fernández-Santos, who's like closing in on 40 years of age. Does not look good. Lost to Felicia Spencer, got absolutely smashed there. Lost against Megan Anderson, got submitted there. I mean, she's really got no right kind of being in the UFC. I know they were in featherweights and so on, but she just looks rough. Like, she does not look good at all. Doesn't really bring much to the table. Where Nunes, she absolutely tooled up Ramona Pascal last time out, like really badly, and beat her ass. Predominantly from bell to bell, and it made it look easy. And then before that, she had the first round knockout of Bimaleki, who I think went on to have some kind of bad kind of health issues that she was kind of going into that fight, which we found out I think it was a head problem, a brain problem. So, but she comes forward, she throws heavy leather, like big heavy leather. She will land on Zara Fernández-Santos, and I just don't think that Santos will really want to stick around too long. So I've got Josiana Nunes. I've got her via TKO. I've got her probably in the first couple of rounds to do that there. But Nunes is definitely going to be my pick. The next fight I'm really looking forward to, Warley Alves against Nicholas Dalby. Now, I come into this one, just you have your little thoughts of like, I quite like this fighter or I quite like that fighter. And I've always kind of, I don't know what it is, I've always liked Wally Alves. I like his aggression, but he's so up and down. You just do not know what you're going to get from this guy whatsoever. Sometimes when he shows up, he looks unbelievable. Sometimes when he shows up, he looks like absolute dog doo-doo. And he's just a hard guy to kind of cap, because you know he could come out there at any minute and pop someone, take them out, or he could be the one that gets popped and gets taken out as well. Starts off super aggressive, dangerous guillotine chokes, dangerous strikes, coming off. I think was that loss to Lizez, was it? Yeah, Jeremiah Wells, sorry. So he's kind of trading wins and losses. He got starched kind of in that second round once he gassed out. And that's the kind of problem with him a little bit. If he can't get you out early, then he will fall in the later part of this fight. And this is kind of where I think this fight is going to kind of take place. If Warley comes out here and puts it on Nicholas Dalby, I think Nicholas Dalby's got enough about him to use that veteran savviness, a guy of 25 fights, come out there and maybe take his licks, lose the first round, whatever. But if this fight, I think, goes into the later part, into the second, into the third, I think Nicholas Dalby is super, super live. So I do see Wally Alves giving Nicholas some problems initially early on. But Dalby is as tough as to get. He's a guy that does not really get hurt all too much, not unless you're on something like JC Ronson was. But yeah, it's kind of Alves early, Dalby kind of decision. I'm gonna lean with Nicholas Dalby. There could be spots in here where he takes some big shots, but I think he can grind Wally Alves out. And the lines came down to where Nicholas Dalby is now an underdog. Alves was the kind of underdog late last week. I know some sharps that are on Wally Alves, and that betting line's been moved down to where I think he's plus 100 in the lines. It's just favouring Dalby right now. But for me, I'm going to pick Nicholas Dalby via decision. Win a decision against a Brazilian in Brazil, that would be something. But I think he can do it. I think he can edge out Wally Alves in this fight here. I'd rather go with that over someone like Alves, who's just so up and down. You just never know what you're going to get. But Nicholas Dalby is going to be my pick there, and probably going to be an underdog very, very soon, and someone that might interest me. But I just need to kind of look into a couple of more things. This is the fight I'm really looking forward to. Ismail Bonfim, 18-3 record against Terence McKinney, 13-4. And I've never really been the biggest admirer, biggest fan of Terence McKinney, but guy has power early, and he is super, super aggressive. Something that you have to love is the aggressiveness that he shows. But what you don't like is once that kind of aggressiveness kind of goes and fades, then he is susceptible to being taken out, and that's kind of what we've seen from him. But he's hurt some good guys and beat some good guys. I mean, Matt Frivola, to me, is a really tough guy. He came out there, starched him. And this is what this kid can do. Faris Ziam showed that he's got that little bit of wrestling. He's got some submission skills, took him out first round. Then, like I say, massive step up. 3 weeks notice, I think it was, from his previous fight with Faris Ziam, and comes out there and gives Drew Dober problems. If you had some different referees that were in that match, they could have easily stopped that fight, but the referee let it go. Drew Dober's got some of the most knockouts in UFC lightweight history. Knee, punch, out of there in the end of the first round there. Great fight for however long it lasted, and then came into his next fight, against Eric Gonzalez, and he showed that kind of wrestling and submission game again, and come out there in the first round. And like I say, he is a kind of boom or bust fighter. He will look to come and get you out of that first round, and I think he's got an opportunity to do that here. Ismail Bonfim, on the other hand, there's two Bonfim brothers that will be fighting on this card. Ismail's got that 18-3 record. Watch some of his fights. Really good, solid boxing, but overall a pretty solid fighter, because he's shown us he's got a little bit of a ground game. He can grapple a little bit, but predominantly Ismail likes to fight on his feet. I think he was a Brazilian national boxer. He has some really good footwork, really good shot selection, which I really like. Will mix it up, go to the body, to the head. Some nice pull counters in there that I see as well. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to deal with the aggression from McKinney. Now, if he does, this gets into round 2 and round 3, and maybe he can stop some takedowns or doesn't get hit with any power shots, then I think he is very live to win a decision. But for me, my pick's going to be Terence McKinney. I think he's going to come out here. I think he's going to catch him with a big shot which may lead to the ground and him getting submitted. That's how he's lost his 3 fights. If you look at his records going back, all 3 losses, all via submission. So if he comes out there and gets hurt, I think that maybe McKinney could get into wrestler mode, get the takedown, and look to get that back, which he's so good, and he's shown that he's very, very good at doing that. So I bet Terence McKinney 2.2 units at -110. I think I got that on Friday. The line's now moved to this at -125. So the money is going another way. But like I say, I am very aware that if this fight kind of goes into the 7 to 10 minute mark of this fight, then Bonfim is probably very, very live to get a decision here. But I don't think he makes it there. For me, I'm going to pick Terence McKinney. And for me, I'm going to pick him. I'm actually going to pick him via knockout. I think that he catches this guy. If not, I think that he can hurt him. Maybe falls down, jumps on, gets a submission. But McKinney's going to be in the pick there. Moving on, bantamweight division. Luan Lacerda, 12-1. Fighting out of Brazil against Cody Stamann, 25-1, fighting out of Michigan or Vegas, I think he fights out of now. And Lucerda's a guy that I've known about for a little bit, for a couple of years. The guy's got a plodding kind of striking style, and really what he does is he sets that up. He does enough to try and do enough in the feet to really get that fight where he can get a clinch or even flop to his back and get the fight to the ground. This is where this guy comes alive. Super legit ground game. And before the new year, I was thinking, right, I'm going to probably lay some money down in this guy. But I've just not seen enough in the feet to where I think that he can get this fight where he wants it. I think if he was to have some decent striking, then I definitely think that he come out there, show, I mean, he's going to have a massive reach advantage, but everyone has that against Cody Stamann. He's going to come forward and try and look to kind of grab a hold of Stamann. If Stamann's just fights smart and kind of uses, I think his boxing's always been kind of underrated in my opinion, Cody Stamann. I think that that's something that kind of, when I watched a couple of fights back, I'm like, his boxing's not too bad. He's coming off a finish over Eddie Wineland. Wineland is done at this point. Before that, he's come off 3 losses, all to really good guys in the division. Jimmy Rivera when he was there, Merab's in the top 5, I want to say, that division, and Sead Nurmagomedov, he got caught in that guillotine choke, which he seems to catch people in. and I liked him in that fight as well. But for me here, the better overall fighter is Cody Stamann. He can wrestle. I think he can grapple if he chooses to do so. He can do a little bit here and there, but I think predominantly he should be keeping this fight in the feet. Look to land some shots. Just don't play the game with Lacerda, because, like I said, Lacerda has got some serious submissions, and like he's got them across a whole different range: rear naked chokes, heel hooks, guillotine chokes. He's got the lot. You don't mess around. You don't F around with this guy on the ground. You keep it on there. Just try and land some big shots and try and be on your bike and fight at distance, which is, like I say, it's not something that Stamann's really known for. He likes to kind of mix up and grapple a little bit. But like I say, in this one, I don't think he should be doing that. I've got Cody Stamann. I've got him via decision. I think that in the kind of this might not be the greatest fight. I can see Lacerda flopping to his back, doing some crazy stuff to try and get the fight to the ground, to where he definitely, if he gets it there and gets a position and gets a hold of something, he could take that home. But for me, I'm picking Cody Stamann. I'm picking him via decision in that one there. Heavyweight division, Shamil Abdurakhimov, 20-7 record, coming off a few losses as he faces off against the kind of phenom of the kind of light heavyweight and heavyweight division. It's kind of interesting. I'm waiting to see kind of where he's going to stay in that division. It seems like it's going to be heavyweight right now, but I think 205 would serve him maybe very well. Jailton Almeida, 17-2 record, who's been nothing short of amazing since he's come into the UFC. 6 wins via TKO, 11 wins via sub, no decisions. This guy's never been there. He has been there, sorry, because he lost once, but he has never won a decision. He's got all 17 wins inside the distance, with 2 losses, 1 via decision, 1 via TKO. But he's been a wrecking ball since he came into the UFC, and I don't see this really being any different here. Ever since he stepped foot in the Dana White's Contender Series in the Apex, I mean, the guy's just never really, I don't think ever really got out of the second gear. I don't really think we've seen his full repertoire of his game yet, but what we have seen is he's got good striking. His ground game is stifling, to say the least. He gets you down there. He's heavy. His positional awareness is fantastic. Doesn't make a mistake, doesn't give the opponent an opportunity to catch anything, be dominant in any aspect whatsoever. And he's just ran through guys. And I mean, the guys that he's fought, you kind of expect that now looking back. Anton Tarkush, Parker Porter, Danilo Marquez. He's just getting there. And once he gets a dominant position, it's done. Shamil Abdurakhimov, I mean, they've tried to make this fight like 3 or 4 times, and Shamil's pulled out with injuries, visa problems. I mean, he's 41 years old, 20 wins, 7 losses, not really a threat on the feet. Can be a little bit of an anti-grappler a little bit, but I just don't see where he stops his fight from hitting the ground. If he did, I still think he's outgunned on the feet. And like I say, he is coming off 3 vicious losses, 3 knockout losses. So he's going to be scared to engage on the feet. I think once it hits the ground, it's only going to be a matter of time. So Jailton Almeida, like I say, the line, you're not going to play him at the line he's at, but Jailton Almeida is definitely going to be the pick here. And I don't see it kind of reaching the 7-minute mark of this fight here. So Jailton Almeida, I'll take him via submission. The end of round number 1 there. Moving on, Gabriel Bonfim against Munir Lizez. I think this has got all the aspects of being a really fun fight. It's one I'm looking forward to. To me, out the Bonfim brothers, Gabriel is the one that I really like as a prospect. I think he looks very good. Like I say, undefeated, 13-0. And he's another guy that's kind of, I think he's a little bit more of a better, well-rounded fighter. He's got some decent striking, but again, his ground game is where he shows great skills. And I've seen him getting some really nice takedowns as well. But like I say, he's got a little bit of a boxing background as well. I watched his fight in the Dana White Contender Series, and I watched his 2 LFA fights, and he just looks like he's got a complete game to me. And he's young; he's only at 25, so this could be another contender coming into the welterweight division. Which going forward, we're needing more guys to kind of freshen up that division a little bit. You've got your Shavkats and your Hamzats that might come back there, but like I say, this kid looks really good. I'm really impressed by him. He's like -175. I don't think that line's all that bad. Lizzie's, sometimes I think people underestimate how good this guy really is. I think that he's got legit striking. He's a guy that's very durable. He's a hard guy to take out. He's only been taken out the one time in his 13 fights, and he's coming off a really good win, I think, against Angelusa, who's I think a little bit of a difficult style matchup. So coming in there and getting that win after the kind of getting melted by Warley Alves before that, he's got himself a decent fight here. His fourth fight in the UFC after his initial win against Razak Al Hassan in his debut. That's going back to 2020, nearly 3 years ago. That's kind of crazy as well. So, how I see the fight kind of playing out, to me, I think on the feet, I will definitely edge Lizzez with his all-around game. I think he throws well in combinations. I think he's got some kicks there that he can use. And I think that when I look at Bonfim, I think he's got some fairly decent counter skills. But for me, I think he wants to try and get this fight to the ground. So I just see Bonfim finding spots here where he can tie up Lizzez, maybe get some takedowns, and kind of ride out a kind of dominant decision win there. So I've got Gabriel Bonfim. If that line was to come down to -150, I think it's something I might honestly have a look at on the Bonfim side. But I think I'm just going to leave that as a pass and just sit and watch and try and find out a little bit more about this Bonfim, because it's a big jump up in opposition from what I think he's faced before. But a good fight nonetheless. Gregory Rodriguez against Bruno Ferreira. 13-4 for Robocop, 9-0 for, I think he's the Hulk, his nickname is. Big barreling guy, looks massive at middleweight, coming in here on short notice after Brad Tavares pulled out. And I think this kid is going to come forward and just throw heavies. I don't think he's going to last that long, but I think he's going to come out here and give Gregory Rodriguez an absolute scrap if he wants it. All-around better fighter is Gregory Rodriguez, and he's a very, very tough guy. I mean, that cut he suffered against Chidi was vicious. But like I say, Bruno Ferreira, the Hulk, 9-3, 6 wins via TKO, 3 via submission. All around decent fighter. Won that via first round TKO against Leon Aliou, I think it was, away back in September last year. But he is coming in here in very, very short notice, maybe 10 days or so. But he's got a decent all-around game. But he's a guy that you haven't seen all that much of, kind of getting outside the second round. He's got a couple there, but not something kind of to real ride home about. Rodriguez, to me, is a really solid fighter. I tried to fade him last time out against Chidi. And like I say, when that cut appeared, I was like, oh, I think I've got an opportunity here. But I think he can fight. I think if he was to fight a little smarter, I would be a little bit more confident here. But I don't trust. I think he can get hit. I think he can get popped a little bit. And this guy is going to come out and be very, very aggressive in round one. But I like the caliber opposition he's faced in the UFC. Very tough fighters. Josh Framed, even in the LFE scene, good win, I think, there. Dusko Todorovic, when he made the UFC. Jungmyung Park, never easy. Won there via second round. Petrosian, I was on the Petrosian side. I thought he could have did enough to kind of really win a striking battle, and he did that there. And then wins over Julian Marquez and a TKO over Chidi Ijakwane. Guy's dangerous in all facets of the game, especially with his striking. He's got big power as well. For me, like I said, I don't really trust him at the price that he's at, because I think that Ferreira will come out and maybe land some shots here. But eventually, I think that Robocop will find a way to hurt Ferreira. I think Ferreira will be gassy, and he'll take him out in the mid part of this fight. So second round TKO for Gregory Robocop Rodriguez there. This sucks. Mauricio Shogun, Ihor Poteria. I hate that they've made this fight. Shogun 27-13-1 record. Last fight in the UFC in Brazil. I really wanted to pick this guy, but I mean, when you watch that fight with OSP last time, the guy is done. Like, the guy is. The battles have kind of caught up. He's been around. He's fought the best guys, but that last fight was reeking. It was not a good fight. And then he obviously had that loss to Paul Craig before. He's only fought a couple of times in nearly 3 years, with his last win against Little Nog, which was kind of controversial and very, very close to say the least. It kind of really could have went either way. And Teixiera, I mean, there's nothing really right home about this guy, but he's got the opportunity against a massive kind of legend here. I think that, I mean, he beat Sadolski in the Dana White Contender Series. That was a nice finish, but it was against a kind of really a no-named guy and a guy that's not overly good. And then he got stopped by Nikolai Moreno in the second round there. So he lost a kind of low-caliber guy. I don't really like much what I see. And I think if I would love it just one time if Shogun was coming in here on something heavy, on the roids or something, just to come out there and get one last win and just kind of leave the UFC and leave his career like the legend he is. But I think Teixiera is just going to beat him here, and I hate saying that. He's a big dude for that division. So I'm going to take Teixiera, but I am 100% cheering for Mauricio Shogun here to come out here and just go out in style. But I struggle to see it if I'm being completely honest. So Area for the win there. So guys, just get a drink here. Okay. So I see I've got a few guys here. There's a few comments there. I'll get to that at the end of the video. If you've not hit that thumbs up, please do so. It will help me out tremendously. Moving on to the main card. The Bear Jew, Paul Craig, from just down the road here from me in Coatbridge. He faces off against Johnny Walker. I'm really excited for this fight. I always think that Paul Craig's in kind of fights, sometimes they can be, like the last one was a little bit of a farce, to be honest with you, against Volkan, but the guy gives you entertainment in aspects. I mean, late finishes are good guys. If you engage with this guy in the ground, he can beat anybody if he gets the opportunity. He's beaten two of the top guys in the division. He might even have a W over the new UFC champion Jamahal Hill if he goes on and beats Glover, because Paul Craig snapped his arm there. So, but he is coming off a very lackadaisical performance against Volkan Ozdemir. That was a terrible fight, UFC London, and it showed you that he's not got a hell of a lot there. And we know what Johnny Walker's going to do. He's going to want to strike, even though I think he can do a little bit of everything. But he has got some dynamic striking. And if this stays on the feet for any length of time and he decides to stay there and fight smart, don't fight silly, then I think that Johnny Walker is the deserved favourite here. And when saying that, I mean, Johnny Walker, he throws a lot of flying knees. He does a lot of funky stuff. And that could maybe lead to an opportunity where maybe Paul Craig could grab something, get a trip, get him taken down, and then once you're on the ground, you're in Paul Craig's world there, and that's when you could be in a whole heap of trouble. So this is why I think that Johnny Walker needs to fight smart. He has got the distinct striking advantage here. Like, he is far beyond what Paul Craig will ever be in striking. Paul Craig's been putting it together. He is still fairly new to the sport, but he knows where his bread's buttered. He needs to get this fight to the ground. If he doesn't, he's going to get pieced up by Johnny Walker. And Johnny Walker is still one of the most dangerous guys on the feet if he decides to throw. That's the problem. And sometimes in his fights, he's decided not to throw, which has ultimately kind of lost him fights. Not been that good. He's been a little bit gun shy after being knocked out a few times. I think this is a decent fight for Johnny Walker. I just wish that the betting line was a little bit lower. But I think Johnny Walker's going to knock out Paul Craig. I think this is him that's going to move on. Is that going to be 2 fights in a row he's won? I believe so. Yeah, because he beat Kutalaba via submission last time out after these 2 losses to Jamahal Hill and Thiago Santos. But with Johnny Walker, you never really know. He could end up doing something funky and getting caught in something. But I think Johnny Walker's going to knock out Paul Craig. I think he's got too much for him on the feet. Just fight smart. Keep the fight there. Don't make any silly mistakes. You win this fight. So Johnny Walker, knockout, round number 1 is going to be my pick there in that one. Lauren Murphy against Jessica Andrade. 16-5 record for Lauren Murphy. Former UFC champion and Jessica Andrade, 23-9, who's fought the who's who. And I mean, she has been around the UFC. I remember seeing her in Manchester. Was that the night Machida fought? When was that? Rosie Sexton, 2013. So coming on 10 years being in the UFC this year. I mean, that's and like I say, you look at the people she's fought. We talk about like Pennington, who's a girl in the division is good. Pacheco, who beat Kayla Harrison. Pennington again. Jojo, Jacek, Gadelia, Torres, Kovacevic, Wiley Zhang, Nama Yunus a couple of times, Shevchenko. Lemos, I mean, she's fought the who's who of women over the last 10 years. And she's a savage. I mean, she's an absolute savage in every aspect. She's got some submission skills. She's got some dangerous power. She's got one punch power, which not many girls have. And Lauren Murphy, to me, I just think this is a bit of a mismatch. I don't see where she ultimately has long parts of this fight where she can win minutes, really. That's kind of where I'm struggling to see. She is very tough herself. She is a little bit durable. But if you take one too many shots against Jessica Andrade, you will kind of learn to kind of wilt a little bit. And like I say, Murphy, she's not one of those people that does that. But I think here she might be a little bit outgunned. So not looking into it a whole hell of a lot. Jessica Andrade is going to be my pick there. Gilbert Burns against Neil Magny in a really fun welterweight bout here to kind of really determine, to kind of really stamp themselves in that top 5 of that division. If Gilbert wins, he's not far off the title, in my opinion. And Magny is a guy that's always kind of relevant in that top 10. And props to Magny. Like, I mean, not many people are calling out Gilbert Burns for fights. He's like, I want to go to Brazil. I want to fight Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert Burns is a guy that obviously just wants to fight, wants to keep himself relevant in that division, coming off an unbelievable fight with Khamzat Chimaev, where he gave Khamzat everything he could, hurt him at one point, dropped him at one point. But I kind of think the betting line's a little bit off in this one. I think Neil Magny's got like leverage in this kind of fight where he's big, he's long, he's a little bit awkward, he can tie you up, and he can kind of do a little bit of everything. But I also think that he's very much, if this fight hits the ground, then he's in a lot of trouble, because I think that he has shown that his skills have got better, but I still think against dominant grapplers and dominant jiu-jitsu artists that you can be put in trouble. And I think that Gilbert Burns here, if he chooses to do that, will have a massive advantage. But Gil's kind of shown that he really likes to stand and just throw heavies, and that's been like that for a few years against these top caliber guys. I mean, your Woodleys, your Mayas, your Kamaru's, whoever it may be, Stephen Thompson. He likes to stand, and he's got massive power, really good striking, good selection of shots, and can take a lick as well for the most part. Outside the Usman fight there, where he kind of got dropped with jabs, and really got it put on him in that fight there. Ultimately, I think I have to go with Gilbert Burns, though. Yeah, like I say, I think this is just for Magny. I think where he is now, his level's probably there. I think he's got the most wins in welterweight history, which is phenomenal. Honestly, he's been very relevant in the top 15 of this division for many years now. But I just think that over the course of 15 minutes here, I just don't think he's going to do enough to really keep Gilbert Burns off him. I think Burns lands the heavier strikes, the more impactful strikes, and ultimately kind of rides out maybe at a late third round TKO. I just think that Burns is a little savage and he doesn't stop. If not, I think he can win a pretty dominant decision. So my pick in that one's going to be Gilbert Burns. Late, maybe third round TKO is going to be my prediction in that one there. First of the two title fights in this card, the co-main event, the quadrilogy fight. First time ever in UFC history, you've got guys that are facing off for the fourth time. Deiveson, Figueiredo against Brandon Moreno. And this one, I find this fight very hard. It's funny because these guys have fought in so much, and we've got so much of a kind of sample size with these two in this fight particularly. I still find it really difficult to kind of really choose between them here. And I found this one really, really tough to choose a winner. Figueiredo's a guy I've always had immense respect for. I've always thought he's been a top guy in that division. He would be eventually. But I always thought the weight cuts would maybe take their toll on him. And I think this, I mean, if he loses this one, I think we'll never see him at 125 again. But, I mean, he this kind of all stemmed from when he beat Benavidez a couple of years ago, beat Alex Perez, then really jumped in there against Brandon Moreno. And, I mean, his last 3 fights against Brandon Moreno, that's kind of crazy. 4 fights in a row against the same guy, that's wild, especially in the UFC. And that was a very, very close fight. I thought he did enough in that first fight to maybe warrant a win a little bit. Then in the second fight, got blasted, got knocked down by Brandon Moreno, got submitted. So we've seen that Brandon has tools there to stop this guy. We've not really seen that with Teixiera Figueiredo, with Deiveson, but we have seen him drop Moreno. He has got power to stop this guy. He's just never really had the opportunity to really go ahead and finish the fight. Moreno's toughness really stemmed through in that third fight, where he got a unanimous decision victory in that one there. Moreno, I've seen that. I mean, I think he was with James Krause that last fight. He's now with Saif Saud. He's going to be in his corner this week. Seen he's got a new boxing coach. I watched the Countdown show this morning and seen that he's trying to kind of develop his hands a little bit more. But we've seen like over the course of the fights that he can hurt Figueiredo with his strikes, with his ground game. So if we've seen this fight for any part on the Moreno side where he's got the fight to the ground, is in a dominant position, he can find a submission. But ultimately, I see this fight being more of a stand-up fight. I think Moreno is very hittable. You've seen the Kai Kara France, he was busted up a little bit. That was a beautiful finish to kind of win the interim belt there. For me, I'm going to edge on the Deiveson Figueiredo side. There is some things in this fight I don't like. I don't like the fact that he stayed in Brazil with this one. But, I mean, I can see why you want to stay at home, family and all that, and less being away from things. He's got his own businesses and he's got his own gym and such. And beforehand, he was at that, I forgot, Fight Ready in Arizona with Henry Cejudo. I think helped him out kind of massively in some spots. But according to him, he's taken all that back to Brazil and is kind of putting it all together there and kind of staying close at home, which is fair enough. Fights in Brazil, it saves less travelling and all that there. But for me, I kind of want to pick Deiveson inside the distance, but Moreno's so tough. I kind of just don't see it happening. So fourth fight, I think this will be the last time these guys ever fight. Hopefully it is. Like I said, I couldn't imagine. They're two very, very well-matched guys. You can see that with the way that like no other guys have had 4 fights. They're very, very well matched against each other. For me, I'm going to go Deiveson Figueiredo. I think he's going to defend his belt in Brazil, become the undisputed UFC flyweight champion. And I think it might be the last time we see him, because there's a whole crop of young guys coming through. Yamanal Caps, Mokaev's coming through. There's a bunch of guys they could bring into the UFC that could be tough guys. Pantoja's right there. So Deiveson for the win for me there. And the main event of the night, we have for the UFC light heavyweight championship. Really excited for this fight. I love Glover Teixeira fights and I love Jamahal Hill fights. So these two matched up together, I think it's going to be a great fight. There's going to be a lot of emotion in here. This could be Glover's last fight. This guy had so much crap getting into the UFC initially. Was fighting in Brazil. People knew this guy. I knew of him. I was like, if this guy ever makes it to the UFC, he's going to cause a lot of problems. I kind of thought his time had really kind of gone by for him winning the belt. And then he's shown as he's getting his early 40s here, that this guy is just a really, really good fighter. I think he was on his way to winning that fight with Jiri Prochazka before getting submitted with like 30 seconds left. And that's kind of a bad look, in my opinion, that he's getting submitted by Jiri. But all these guys are dangerous, and if you're in a bad spot, you kind of can be capitalized upon, and that's what happened there. But he was clearly, in my opinion, on his way to winning that fight. I thought that he fought a really good, tough fight against a very hard guy in Prochazka. And we've seen that this guy can do it all. But I think now he has to kind of really get the fight to the ground. And he does that with guys all the time. You've seen it with Thiago Santos. You've seen that with Jan Blachowicz, and what's the other guy? The Anthony Smith fight. He wrecked that guy after initially kind of getting hurt in the early parts of that fight. Then really over the next 20 minutes, put an absolute beat down on Anthony Smith, like an epic beat down. And that's really when the Anthony Smith fight really garnered his confidence back, I think, because the Kutalaba fight got a stoppage there. The Krylov fight, I thought he was a little bit lucky with that. I thought Krylov made some bad decisions there and put himself in positions to be countered on the ground, and he did. Ultimately lost the fight. But since then, he's only been looking up. And he's against an absolute savage here in Sweet Dreams, Jamahal Hill, from fighting out of Michigan, a Dana White's Contender Series alumni, like one of the early ones that's came through here and has shown nothing but being an absolute killer in that cage from the very get-go. Really good striking, really solid just everywhere. Got caught with the kind of one mistake that he really made against Paul Craig, where he went to the ground. I thought he had an opportunity to kind of pull out that position and not be in the danger zone, and kind of engaged again on the ground and got made to pay for it with his arm getting snapped. But since then, he's come in and he's just been an absolute wrecking ball of a fighter. Destroyed Jimmy Crute with like a short left hook that absolutely buckled him. Johnny Walker, he had that, it was a straight onto his face, straight onto the nose, and then you had Johnny Walker just kind of going back against the cage, absolutely wrecking him there. And then Thiago Santos really eventually, once he kind of got that dominant position on the ground, landed some heavy elbows and sent Thiago Santos back into the PFL. And now he's got his opportunity here against Glover Teixeira. So on the feet, like I said, I think Glover's dangerous on the feet. If these guys engage on the feet, I do think the more dynamic striker is definitely Jamahal Hill, but I'm not counting out Glover Teixeira in that spot because he can hurt people. We've seen that over the years. But I think that Glover knows that if he wins this fight, it has to be on the ground. I think he has to mix it up, but I do think he does have an advantage on the ground. And I was watching the countdown show and they're saying that Jamal's like great in all areas, and I believe that. Like, I'm not saying that he's not, but I think, to me, you've got a guy who's very good positionally in Glover Teixeira. I think that he's a guy that if he was to find the right positions here and land some damaging blows, I think he could ultimately stop Jamahal Hill. But I've seen no quitting Jamahal Hill whatsoever. Like, even when his arm was hanging, he was eating elbows, the fight was stopped. There was no quitting him. He was looking to put a hurting on Paul Craig. So this is a great matchup, in my opinion. Initially, before the new year, I was watching fights in both, and I liked the Jamahal Hill, and I seen he came all the way down to -110, and I was actually looking at thinking, right, I need to kind of go into this a little bit. We've got another 3 weeks before the fights come in here. I'm going to reevaluate it and kind of make my decision on a pick. And I just think the veteran savviness, and that my heart might be kind of talking a little bit more over my head here, because I really want Glover to win this belt in Brazil, and then I really like to see him just like leave the sport. I think that's a fairy tale way to end the fight in Brazil after all the crap they had to get out of Brazil to come to America to establish himself. But I think he can win this fight, and I'm going to pick Glover Teixeira. I'm seeing quite a lot online of a lot of people on Jamahal Hill. I'm seeing some people on Glover Teixeira, but he is like +115 here in the UK. I'm interested to see where that line goes. I'm more than likely going to bet Glover this week. He's someone that I probably like having my money on, but I also realise that Jamahal Hill could probably, if he was to catch him with the right shots, could starch this guy in the first round because, like I say, a savage fighter, and this could be the future of the light heavyweight division going forward. But for me, I'm going to go with the old guy. I'm going to stick with my older kind of veteran here in Glover Teixeira. I think he's a tough matchup for anybody in that division. I think he gets it via stoppage. I think he gets it via submission in round number 4. I think that he gets some top time, hurts Jamahal Hill, gets opportunity, gets a submission. So Jamahal Hill will come back. I think he will hold the belt. But to me, I definitely think that Glover Teixeira is where I'm going to go this week. I'm going to go back into my predictions log here because there was a gentleman that asked last week to kind of show at the end of the video where I am with my picks. Glover Teixeira over Jamahal Hill. You'll see I've got Figueiredo, Burns, Andrade, Walker, Poteria, Moises. I don't know. I think I've missed that one. Did I miss that fight? I might have did. I've got Moises there. If I have, I apologise. I can't really remember now. But I might have missed that one out. Costa's actually quite a good fight. I have missed out. I think he's a very, very solid short notice fighter, but I just think that Moises is kind of overall a better fighter this spot. Sorry if I missed that out, guys, but hey, Moises is the pick. Almeida, Rodriguez, Bonfim, Stamen, McKinney, Dalby, Nunes, Oliveira is going to be my picks there for that one. So, coming back out here, I'm going to go into the chat and see how you guys are. Let's get it. Let's go. Let me go back to the top there, guys. So, Moise Audio in here as always. I appreciate you, brother. Bob Broccoli, hello. Nunes against Zara Fairn. Yeah, that's a. I mean, you could probably get her to win inside the distance. Actually, that's maybe not a bad bet, but I don't know what the lines would be. Bunch of good fights. Looking forward to it. Jimmy the Drunk. Seems like forever since I caught. Yeah, I've not been around that much. I've had some stuff to deal with, but I am back and ready to go for 2023. Robocop inside the distance. I like that. Dallas or Tampa tonight. I actually think that Tampa's going to win. I've got a kind of funny feeling that Brady's going to show up and get a dub here. Brazil crowd will be wild. They always are. Shout out to ESPN free prelims. What time does the card start this week? I want to say it's 11 p.m. UK time, so maybe 6 o'clock East Coast, 3 o'clock West Coast. There, Daniel. I remember Lauren Murphy being horrible. She's made extreme improvements. She has. She's always been very durable, but she's started to put it all together and she's started to garner some confidence. So, yep. Can you predict? Like I say, I completely forgot that one there. I do like Moises. I think he's overall just a better fighter. But like I say, Costa is a very, very dangerous fighter. He's a guy that I've known a little bit about outside the UFC coming through. But yeah, let me see what's going on here in the last couple of comments. UFC in bed was fun to watch. Thanks for the predictions, Will. Happy New Year. Thank you. Jamal is a savage. He is. Stamen getting subbed again. Very well could happen with Lacerda. He's a legit guy when it hits the ground there. But I've just got Stamen right, just fighting smart and winning that one. Wyatt, hope you're well. Andrade should win. He should. Or she should, I should say. Jamahal Hill got to be the smallest ranked light heavyweight. Definitely seems like a middleweight. He's a guy I like watching fight, but I'm on the Glover side this week. So, guys, if you've not hit that thumbs up, if you've not hit the subscribe button, please do so. And if you've got a comment, leave it down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for the support. I'm really happy to be back and back consistently breaking down fights. I'm looking forward to this year and hopefully getting some momentum on my channel because it's completely thwarted, which is rightly so. I wasn't around much in 2022, so I need to get that back again. So, guys, until Christ, it'll be Derek Lewis against Spivak next in a couple of weeks. I will have early insight for UFC 284 out probably next week. Islam against Volkanovski. Until then, guys, all the very, very best. Take care, and I will see you very soon. All the best, guys. Thank you.